Perception is power. But what China is doing right now, is it just perception? Or is there some real substance behind it? The moment the tariffs began, Donald Trump made it loud and clear. Now the game changes. According to him, the global economy would no longer be shaped by mutual understanding or traditional alliances. No, it would be shaped by America's terms. The U.S. had drawn a line, and countries all around the world scrambled. Let's talk, they said. Let's negotiate. Let's meet halfway. Let's find a middle ground. But China didn't flinch. It stood firm and said, if you impose a 125% tariff on us, we'll impose a 125% tariff on you. The U.S. responded, all right then, 145%. That means a 145% import duty would be placed on Chinese goods entering the American market. If you're hearing this for the first time, let's break it down in real-world terms. Let's say a product comes from China and costs $100. If the U.S. imposes a 10% import duty, that product becomes $110. Pretty straightforward. Now imagine a 125% tariff. That same product jumps to $225. And with a 145% tariff, you're now paying $245. So ask yourself, if a $100 product suddenly costs $245, will it still sell like it used to? Of course not. Sales will drop. Demand will shrink. Retailers won't stock it. And soon, production will decline. Because why manufacture what no one is buying? And don't forget, the United States is the largest consumer market in the world. So clearly, this isn't just about taxes. It's about leverage. It's a pressure tactic. It's a game of economic chess where the U.S. is using its consumer power as the ultimate bargaining chip. But China didn't fall into a panic. Instead, China asked a direct question. Why are you singling us out? Why are we being treated as the exception? The answer, though, is no mystery. American think tanks, economists, and political strategists have said it for years. If any country poses a serious challenge to U.S. dominance, it's China. So it's no surprise that China was first in the line of fire. The U.S. accused China of not playing by the rules, of disrespecting the global economic order. China and several other nations, however, pushed back. What rules is Trump talking about? Rules that change whenever convenient. But one thing is clear. China's economy is export-driven. It thrives by selling to the world. Exports are its lifeblood. So again, why isn't China afraid? Tariffs, after all, are designed to hurt exports. So why does China still look so confident? Because, my friend, this isn't China's first rodeo. Let's rewind to Trump's first term. Back in 2018, that was when the first major trade war erupted between the U.S. and China. So what we're witnessing today, it's not new. It's a repeat of a battle China has already fought. And the moment that war began, China started preparing. That's the first key point. If geopolitics is a grand chessboard and Trump has made his move, then China's countermove was years in the making. Let's look at the data. Back in 2018, 19.8% of China's total exports were going directly to the United States. That's a huge chunk. But China quickly decided, let's reduce this exposure. Let's diversify. And here's where it gets interesting. Even though 19.8% of exports were going to the U.S., when compared to China's entire GDP, that segment only accounted for about 2%. So China thought, yes, we'll take a hit, but it's not fatal. It's a bruise, not a broken bone. The loss was manageable. And more importantly, it wasn't one-sided. America would suffer too. American companies, distributors, retailers, and consumers, they'd all feel the pressure. But China had more than just resilience. It had strategy. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. From 2000 to 2022, during that period, the United States increased its dependency on China by a whopping 400%. That's right, 4 times more dependent than before. Meanwhile, China was doing the exact opposite. It quietly reduced its dependency on the U.S. by 50%. Let that sink in. As the U.S. leaned more on China, China pulled back and diversified its trade relationships globally. And now China draws confidence from that very shift, because when the tables turn and tariffs are used as weapons, the country that's less dependent always has the upper hand. Here's another bombshell. There are 532 product categories that the U.S. imports only from China, not from Mexico, not from Europe, not even from Canada. Only from China. Let that number echo. 532. So the question flips again. Who is actually dependent on whom? Yes, America is trying to corner China. Yes, these tariffs are aggressive. But China isn't sweating. It's not reacting with fear. It's reacting with preparation. Because this isn't just about politics or trade. It's about long-term vision. It's about understanding where the world is heading and staying 5 steps ahead. So now, when you see China standing tall despite 145% tariffs, you know why. Because this isn't just a game of perception. China has substance behind the scenes. It has a plan. It has patience. And above all, it has leverage. So, let's talk about the consequences of these import duties. The higher the tariff, the more expensive those Chinese-made products become in the U.S. market. And when products get pricier, the American consumer ends up bearing the burden. It's simple economics. Inflation, reduced spending power, and an overall hit to the standard of living. But here's the kicker. China knows this. Yes, it's true that for years a significant portion of China's population had low purchasing power. But that picture is changing. Since 2018, under the leadership of Xi Jinping, China has been pushing a vision called common prosperity. The idea is straightforward but profound. Build a new middle class. By empowering its own people, China is setting the stage for a more self-sustaining internal economy. And why does that matter? Because China is aware that the world is shifting against it. More and more countries are growing uneasy with China's rise. Xi himself puts it bluntly. If the world is turning against us, then let's turn that to our advantage. If they're irritated, if they're trying to stop us, we'll just push harder. China knows it's a target. It's not just about tariffs. It's about more than that. Sometimes they form the Quad, sometimes AUKUS. All these coalitions are aiming to limit China's global influence. And when it comes to tariffs, Trump didn't give China the same relief he offered to others. While he gave 90 days of relief to every other country, lowering tariffs to just 10%, he slammed China with an increase, pushing the tariff from 125% to 145%. It's clear the U.S. wants to single out China, target it, and bring it down. But what's China's response to this? Well, China isn't sitting idle. Instead of just relying on exports, China is making a strategic pivot. They're increasing domestic consumption. Xi's government is telling its manufacturers, you don't need to wait for the West. You can sell your goods right here within China. Think about it. If China can boost its internal market, its dependency on foreign markets will shrink. That's economic resilience in action. The government has already begun to implement measures to make this a reality. For one, they're cutting interest rates on loans for manufacturers. And on top of that, export subsidies are now in place, cushioning any blows from reduced demand abroad. And even though the USA remains a massive market, China knows that it's not all about that one relationship. They didn't build the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, for nothing. Through the BRI, China is building alternative markets, forging new trade relationships across Asia, Africa, and Europe. It's expanding its influence, making sure that even if one market tightens, there are many more waiting. Now, let's shift gears a bit and look at the bigger picture. Public opinion. As inflation rises in the U.S., and it's already on the up, there will be greater discontent among the American public. It will get harder for the government to manage that. And here's the thing. The U.S. is a democracy. And in a democracy, people speak up. They protest. They voice their frustrations. More people will turn against Trump and his policies. It's inevitable. But in China, China is different. China is China, the dictatorship of the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. And that changes everything. The CCP doesn't need to worry about the same pressures that a democracy faces. They're not concerned about public protests. The state controls the narrative. Their propaganda machinery is finely tuned. It's already circulating videos with strong messages. We will never yield. We will not bow down. The CCP reminds its people of the centuries of humiliation they endured at the hands of the West. The century when China was carved up and exploited by foreign powers, opium wars, colonialism, foreign occupation. Then the Communist Revolution arrived. The CCP took control and turned the nation around. China rose from the ashes. And now, as they say, they are standing tall on the world stage. So, when times get tough, when the tariffs hit, or when external pressure rises, the Chinese people know who the target is. It's not the CCP that's to blame. No. The target is the United States. And let's not forget, the very same U.S. is the one who let China grow to this point. America played a key role in China's rise through trade, technology, and partnerships. Now, America is trying to cut China down to size. But China hasn't forgotten how far it's come. Now, instead of begging for Western markets, China is positioning itself to lead in alternative ways. It's strengthening its economy from within and working to expand its influence around the world. Trump's advisors often bring up a compelling point. Look at where China was in 1980 and look at it now. A lot of that transformation is thanks to Nixon and Deng Xiaoping's historic meeting. At that time, the United States took a gamble. They said, bring capitalism to China. Let's open the doors for investment. It seemed like a win-win. China embraced capitalism, and the U.S. poured in resources, technology, and trade. But China doesn't look at it the same way anymore. They say, don't act like you did us a favor. Your companies made enormous profits. You set up factories here, made things for $50, and then sold them for $500 around the world. You benefited too. And that's where the issue lies. For years, the U.S. expected China to remain focused on low-value goods. They believed China would always be the factory floor, the place for cheap labor and manufacturing. But China has shattered that expectation. Companies like BYD have emerged, and now they're competing directly with Tesla. We're talking about high-tech electric vehicles, a market once dominated by American and European giants. But now, China is not just making products. It's innovating and competing for the future. This shift isn't just economic. It's ideological. China is pushing a narrative. There may be short-term pain, but we will achieve long-term autonomy. The country has already maneuvered itself into a position where it holds leverage over some of the most critical sectors in the world. Take rare earth materials and semiconductors. The U.S. may have the edge in cutting-edge technology, but China holds the trump card in these raw materials. China controls 72% of the global supply of rare earths. Here's the kicker. Even though countries like Chile and Peru have rare earth reserves, Chinese companies have their hands on those mines. They offer to extract the resources, take on the risk, and provide the investment, all in exchange for control. That gives China significant negotiating leverage on the global stage. In April alone, China took a bold step. They banned 27 American companies from doing business with them. Many of these companies are in defense manufacturing. This was a direct response to the U.S. banning companies like Huawei and TikTok, two of China's most powerful tech firms. Now, China is fighting back. They've flipped the script saying, you told the world that you were using our rare earths for civilian purposes, but we believe you're using them for military reasons. So we're stopping the supply. It's clear China is playing hardball. When it comes to semiconductors and artificial intelligence, AI, the U.S. still has the upper hand. But China isn't backing down. The U.S. government introduced the CHIPS Act to stop China from accessing top-tier semiconductor technology. The American reasoning was clear. We won't sell our top tech to China. But China responded with the same defiance. They said, fine, we'll build our own. Take Huawei, for example. The company was dependent on a lithography machine from the Netherlands to make advanced chips. The U.S. pressured the Dutch government to block the sale. So what did Huawei do? It developed its own lithography technology. They adapted, learned, and built. It's that spirit of self-sufficiency that drives China's long-term strategy. Now here's the one weakness China has. Agriculture imports, especially from the United States. From 2002 to 2011, China's imports of U.S. agricultural products skyrocketed by 854%. They were importing huge quantities of wheat, cotton, soybeans, and especially corn. In 2022, China imported $43 billion worth of agricultural commodities from the U.S. But in 2023, that number dropped to just $34 billion. China is working hard to reduce this dependence too. They're turning to technology to solve their agricultural problems. Drones, Internet of Things, IoT, devices, and smart agriculture are all becoming part of China's long-term strategy to build self-sufficiency. And let's not forget, despite these tariffs, China is still the world's factory. Even with the pressure from the U.S., China says, "We are still the factory of the world. If you bring us down, many others will fall too." The sheer scale of China's manufacturing capacity means that it isn't just about China. It's about the global supply chain. Take a look at Tesla. Despite tariffs and trade tensions, in February 2024, Tesla opened a new $200 million factory in Shanghai. This factory was made possible by favorable loans from the Chinese government and a 10% corporate tax relief. Interestingly, Li Qiang, who supported Elon Musk in Shanghai back in the early days, is now China's premier. Some even speculate that China may be using Musk as a part of back-channel diplomacy, using Tesla's relationship with China to strengthen ties. So, what looks like a simple trade war between two superpowers is far more complex. than it first appears. China is not just responding to tariffs. It's strategizing for long-term dominance. And when the dust settles, it might not just be about tariffs or imports. It could be a battle for global influence, one that will shape the world for decades to come. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your opinion. And of course, share the video with anyone who might find this analysis interesting. Let's keep the conversation going.